Shana Tova, everyone. Here we are again for this pre-recorded Torah and Haftarah reading. And I can't imagine a Torah reading for which I yearn more for the company of the community. And I'll say more about this story in just a moment. I hope that yesterday, because of this pre-recorded Torah reading, you were able to space out your day such that you could really savor the first day of Rosh Hashanah, whether in place of the traditional Torah reading, you came to the interactive Torah study, or you had simply more time to walk, or you took more time for your own personal prayer. Whatever it was, I hope the pre-recorded Torah reading was useful to you. I can't imagine not reading the story we have for today. This story is a deeply haunting story. It's a deeply broken story, is how I like to think of it. And it's a story for which there are really no words to adequately contextualize it, explain it, or rationalize it. I've had many years where I thought I happened upon a brilliant interpretation of this story, and only to show it to my great editor, who is my wife, who looked at it and she would just shake her head and say, there's simply no way you can make all of this work, which is such a necessary and humbling thing, because we come to the story and it leaves us with these deep questions about why would God do such a thing? Why would God test Avraham by commanding him to sacrifice his son? And how could Avraham go through with it? And how could Isaac submit to it? There are differences in the tradition about Isaac's age, whether he was 13, how could he submit to it? There are those who say he was 37, all the more so, how could he submit to it? And then afterwards, even as the Torah records how broken their relationship is, how is this to be held up as a story of any kind of spiritual model for us? But I think that's also the genius of our tradition, that it is so disturbing and it is so deep and it is so haunting, and it has these infinite layers of meaning and irony that somehow there's something so quintessentially Jewish about the story, and engaging with it, with all of its questions, I think makes us so quintessentially Jewish for having encountered it. So I'd like to share actually words from Abraham Joshua Heschel. These are perhaps the best words that I can think of right now to give some kind of introduction to the Akedah, to the binding of Isaac, and it's found on page 104 in your Machzor. And this is an experience that Heschel recounted, I don't know where exactly, but he recounted of studying the story when he was 7 years old with his Rebbe, and this is what he has to say. Here's the experience of a child of 7 who is reading in school the chapter which tells of the sacrifice of Isaac on the way to Mount Moriah with his father. He lay on the altar, bound, waiting to be sacrificed. My heart began to beat even faster. It actually sobbed with pity for Isaac. Behold, Abraham now lifted the knife, and now my heart froze within me with fright. Suddenly the voice of the angel was heard, Abraham, lay not your hand upon the lad, for now I know that you fear God. And here I broke out in tears and wept aloud. Why are you crying? Asked the rabbi. You know that Isaac was not killed. And I said to him, still weeping, but Rabbi, suppose the angel had come a second too late. The rabbi comforted me and calmed me by telling me that an angel cannot come late. An angel cannot be late, but a human being made of flesh and blood, maybe. And so that's a recollection of the great scholar and philosopher Abraham Joshua Heschel, who died in the early 1970s, of his recollection studying this story as a 7-year-old in Warsaw with his Rebbe. And now we'll continue with the blessing and reading the first Aliyah.